What are the craziest stats seen on non-evolved Pokemon? I'm not talking about Pokemon that were previously fully evolved and received evolutions, just ones that were meant to be the lowest of their evolution line. Today we'll see if having these huge base stats turn these Pokemon into dominant performers in Little Cup, or even lower tiers competitively. We'll put the baseline for this at 100 and higher for this analysis. We're gonna start quick with the speed stat. And surprisingly, there are only 2 Pokemon that crack the 100 base speed plateau in Little Cup. But really there's only one. These are the Voltorb bros, who have the highest speed stat in Little Cup at base 100. Even though they have the highest speed, the way base stats work at level 5 means they will speed tie any Pokemon with base 93 speed to base 102. They all cap out with a speed stat of 20 with max EV investment and a positive nature. So Pokemon like Elekid, Diglett, and Wiglet are just as fast at level 5. It is nice to be among the fastest of a tier. Voltorb, like its evolution Electrode, don't have too much else going for them. Underwhelming attacking stats and bulk turn Voltorb into more of a support Pokemon. It is pretty limited in its offensive move pool, opting for mainly stab attacks like Thunderbolt and Volt Switch for pivoting, or using Explosion to nab a safe switch in while doing good damage. It can provide screen support, taunt, and set up rain, so its speed does do wonders for it in that regard, making it worth it to save a low HP Voltorb. It has seen some use as a support mon in lower tiers in earlier generations, but Voltorb is generally passed on in Little Cup for better options that aren't as easily countered. All they had to do was give Voltorb a bit of coverage and add a new typing to bring it from very small usage to one of the top mons in the format. The glow up is insane for Hisuian Voltorb, and you had to feel for the OG. This fast pivot that welcomed in ground types can now threaten them with super effective Grass Stab and Giga Drain. This is a particularly advantageous generation for Voltorb 2 with the introduction of Terastallization, meaning Voltorb can use its great speed stat to Terra and grab a strong Terra Blast on its potential counters. Terra Fire can hit grass type counters like Foongus and Toedscool, while also hitting Pawniard. Terra Fairy can hit the 2 most common mons in the tier, Mienfoo and Vullaby, while giving a resist to their fighting and dark stabs. Throw in Taunt or Thunder Wave and you can still provide great support to your teammates. It's crazy how these small changes could turn a bland, rarely seen Pokemon into one of the best and most used members of the tier. When it comes to bulk, we have some huge HP stats on little mons. Of course we have to start with the baby form of the Pokemon with the highest HP stats in the game. Happiny has a meager 220 base stat total, with almost half of that going into its great 100 base HP. This is a solid number for a fully evolved Pokemon, but unfortunately it doesn't do much for Happiny with a base 5 in defense and an alright 65 base special defense. It lacks traits its evolutions have like Reliable Recovery, giving it no niche in lower tiers, and even though it has a couple nice support moves, you are better off using more rounded Pokemon to spread status or set up screens. Citadel is the pre-evolution to C-Titan and shares a common trait of having an impressive and large HP stat. At base 108, it eclipses most fully evolved Pokemon. Its 334 base stat total is a lot better than Happiny and solid by Little Cup standards. But even though it might look decent on paper, Citadel is not a viable pick in its tier of Little Cup. The ice typing is great offensively, but a slow and not very powerful mono ice type is going to have a bad time no matter what. You can maybe try and pull off a belly drum set in combination with Ice Shard, but the support needed to make this mon usable is too much. Next up for HP, we shift to Wailmer, or as I like to call it, Baby Kyogre. Wailmer has a fat 130 base HP stat, which is up there with your extremely bulky Pokemon and legendaries. This is offset greatly by its base 35 defenses, turning its great tanking potential into just alright. Its low defenses definitely hurt, as Eviolite isn't quite as effective. But if you are using Wailmer, you usually want to equip a Choice Scarf to spam powerful water spouts while avoiding chip damage. As a rare receiver of this move, Wailmer can use its decent base 70 special attack to attempt a late game sweep. This was a more serviceable mon at earlier gens, but as power creep grew, Wailmer lost what small niche it may have had. Its base 130 HP definitely let it take a few hits in combination with its great mono water typing, but it was mostly a one-trick pony that relied on being a high health to function. Moving on to the last high HP mon, we have Munchlax. This Snorlax pre-evolution sports an incredible 135 base HP. This is coupled with a really good 85 base special defense, a not so great 40 base defense, but a very serviceable 85 base attack. Munchlax doesn't always see the top tier usage of Little Cup, but with Eviolite, it becomes a very specially tanky attacker that can set up curses and use rest talk sets pretty decently. Its normal typing isn't really a hindrance either, as it can shut down most ghost types and has a few resistances with its Thick Fat ability to shut down fire and ice type attackers. Munchlax has been seen in lower tiers such as NU, PU, ZU, and not fully evolved, as it can stump heavy hitting special attackers with its Eviolite bulk and wear them down or set up on them. It has great coverage, as most normal types do, so it can shape its sets around the threats it wants to check. Next up, we have oddly high attacking stats for unevolved mons. We will start with a pretty commonly known one in Trapinch. At base 100 attack, this little ground ant can hit hard. Unfortunately, this is the only gift it receives stat-wise, but Trapinch has seen some usage in tiers other than Little Cup and has been a solid choice in its home tier. This is thanks to its Arena Trap ability that prevents the opponent from switching in most situations. You could pick on Ground Weak or just physically frail mons, and even though Diglett is a lot faster, Trapinch's superior 100 base attack and greater hit tanking potential could be more effective than Diglett in certain matchups. Gaining strong priority in Generation 8 with First Impression now helps to mitigate Trapinch's low speed, allowing it to be a more effective revenge killer and giving it a more solid role in the Little Cup tier. Another ground type with 100 base attack is Mudbray. Mudbray is a pre-evolution to Mudsdale and has almost a 100 point higher base stat total than Trapinch. This makes sense as its evolutionary line is only 2 stages instead of 3, but these points help launch Mudbray to a high Little Cup viability ranking, being a great choice since its release. While it doesn't have the amazing Arena Trap ability, it does have the very solid Stamina ability, which increases its defense by 1 stage after every hit it takes. Mudbray can be an effective rock setter that can act as a tank, dishing out strong hits while taking them. Stab EQ coming off of 100 base attack is nothing to scoff at for a fully evolved Pokemon, so coming from a Little Cup mon is pretty impressive even without EV investment. This is also a solid low tier pick in draft leagues, as Mudbray's Eviolite bulk combined with stamina can tank a surprising amount of physical hits. In mono ground typing, it's nice to avoid 4 times effective hits other common rockers have. Give this horse a reliable recovery move and it would likely shoot up to S rank. Up above these ground types when it comes to attack is Archon, a pre-evolution to Archeops. While Archon is also cursed with the Defeatist ability, this doesn't plunge it into obscurity thanks to the unique properties of the Little Cup tier. Rocking a great 112 base attack, Archon can hit really hard with its great stab attacks and has a solid speed tier to boot. It can take advantage of the high base power head smash to secure huge damage and likely KO a non-resist. While this would surely put it into Defeatist range, the Little Cup tier has items like Berry Juice and Oranberry that can restore Archon's health right back up, putting it out of Defeatist. This in turn will boost Acrobatics to 110 base power, giving Archon 2 nuclear options. You can also use the pivoting move U-turn and Roost to gain momentum and avoid Defeatist, as Stealth Rocks aren't as common in the tier. Archon is a lot more worth it to make work than Archeops because how damage works at level 5. The highest attack stat in the tier goes to Cranidos. At 125 base attack, this large-headed rock type hits like no other in Little Cup. It has great offensive abilities in Sheer Force and Mold Breaker to either boost its damage or ignore abilities like Sturdy and Levitate. Due to its poor defenses and rock typing, Cranidos really is a glass cannon. It can take advantage of an unprepared or weakened team with a Choice Scarf set, but definitely is scared of Common Priority or any faster Scarfers and Trappers. These common elements lead to Cranidos looking like a good pick, but being better on paper than in practice. It just doesn't get the fire off the cannon it has as often as it would like. And if you're going all in with Head Smash, you're taking massive recoil that won't be recovered, as you can't really afford to run an item that isn't Scarf. So you could probably nab a KO, maybe even 2 if you play your Cranidos right, but there are many more balanced, safer offensive options that are wiser to use. But Head Smash go brr, so go ahead and have some fun. Now we're going to look at those specially bulky Pokemon. But if you enjoy playing competitive Pokemon, make sure to enter the first tournament hosted on the BuzzZone Discord. We will be playing a Gen 9 Random Battles Best of 3 on Pokemon Showdown. All you have to do is join the Discord and read the tournament instructions to sign up. Tournament winners will be shouted out in a video and go into the Hall of Fame. And yes, I will be competing as well. If you miss this tournament, still join, as these will likely be monthly. We're going to start with the cool duo of jellyfish. First we have the OG Tentacool. Tentacool doesn't look too impressive stat-wise until you get to its pretty good speed tier and great base 100 special defense stat. It has a great defensive typing to tank hits, but does suffer from common weaknesses like ground and electric. Tentacool's main calling is in its utility move pool. It's a relatively fast rapid spin user who can also set up toxic spikes for its own team support. It can opt to run moves like Toxic, Sludge Bomb, and Scald to spread annoying status and remove items with knockoff. Tentacool is all about providing utility, and with Eviolite, its mediocre overall bulk is serviceable, especially on the special side. It has the added benefit of Flip Turn in Generation 9, as well as the rapid spin buff, allowing it to gain more outspeeds from spinning. This definitely is helping to keep it relevant competitively. Tentacool has seen some lower tier play as well, being a solid utility mon where hazards are more common and having T-spikes is more impactful. In the Little Cup tier, you won't see utility Pokemon be as effective than metas at level 100, so this would be a mon that would benefit if Little Cup was played at a higher level. Toadstool is a lot like Tentacool, as they share the same stat line with great special defense, solid speed, and have really similar move pools, at least support wise. The grass ground typing isn't nearly as good defensively as water poison, but it still has some good traits. Toadstool is actually a lot higher this gen in Little Cup usage and viability than its counterpart. This is mainly due to the immense move pool buff this mon gets with the added typings. Access to spikes, along with toxic spikes, means you have a lot more influence and options in the hazard war, while also being resistant to stealth rocks and being able to spin. You can also use a good little move called Spore to put the opponent to sleep. While Mixeli Mite keeps his fast Spore user in check by making status moves go last, it does have a built-in mold breaker effect, making sure your Spore isn't blocked by other abilities like Magic Bounce or Sap Sipper. It generally doesn't use Spore in Little Cup though. Fungus is a more reliable Spore user, so you can free up move slots for Toadstool's other great traits by shifting that role over. Other moves like Leech Seed could be used if using Toadstool in other tiers like NFE and ZU, or even in Draft where it could be quite good along with being a solid hazard mod. It provides good roll compression support wise, having more overall useful options than Tentacool. The highest special defense stat we see when it comes to Little Cup Pokemon goes to Mantike. This Mantine baby pre-evolution was introduced 2 gens after its evolution and drops in stats significantly to no surprise. It does keep the tremendous special bulk though, dropping from Mantine's 140 to a still amazing 120. By Little Cup standards, this is as high as it gets and outclasses a vast majority of fully evolved Pokemon, tying with the god Arceus itself. What this does is help allow Mantike to take advantage of its really solid defensive typing to find switching opportunities, ideally to actually go on the offensive, as Mantike's main qualities actually revolve around becoming a range sweeper. With the Swift Swim ability, Mantike's middling 50 base speed becomes enough to outspeed base 90 max speed Pokemon holding a Choice Scarf and speed tie with base 95s in the rain. Rain boosted Hydro Pumps are going to hurt even bulky Eviolite users, as Mantike's 60 base special attack is serviceable with those boosts. It complements this with Air Slash to take on grass types and other mons resistant or immune to water. It is just a shame they didn't give it Hurricane, as this combo even gave the underwhelming Mantine a niche in higher tiers. It can maybe step out of the shadow of better offensive water types like Ammonite, Shelder, and Staryu, who can function well offensively outside of rain. This tier is littered with great water type options offensively and defensively, making it hard to stand out. We're going to stop off at high defense Pokemon next. Now I'm going to skip fan favorites Onix and Nosepass, as they were initially fully evolved Pokemon. Base 140 and 135 defense, top current Little Cup. They have similar niches as sturdy plus berry juice users. A role Onix did much better with its higher speed. We do have a few other physically bulky mods to cover though. First are the Geodudes. They have the same stat line, sharing a base 100 defense stat. This goes along with a pretty solid 80 base attack. The other stats are nothing to write home about though. Poor HP, speed, and special stats relegate the OG Geodude to setting up rocks and getting off whatever damage it can with its sturdy berry juice set. It has a great dual stab typing with rock and ground hitting for great damage. Explosion is a great way to clear the field, while Sucker Punch is a good priority option that can get chip damage and patch up the low speed. But this role is far better done by the likes of Onix, and there are tons of other rockers that outclass Geodude. Alolan Geodude, on the other hand, while very similar on paper, has a different role in the tier, with access to the rare Magnet Pull ability and the tools to switch in and eliminate steel types. Alolan Geodude finds a small niche as a trapper. Its high defense will let it take neutral steel type attacks, and it can eliminate them with strong attacks like EQ, Superpower, and Fire Punch. It functions as a solid flying type switch in and has a handful of decent resist, which means it might not be dead weight if the opponent doesn't have a steel type. It also has the ability to set up rocks, less reliably if you're not using sturdy though. Magnemite functions better as a trapper, as it is a genuinely solid Pokemon when not trapping and can run a few good sets. I'm going to skip to the highest defensive Pokemon left to cover in Shieldon. It has great defenses like its evolved form Bastiodon, but other than that, it doesn't look great. Low HP, speed, and unimpressive attacking stats turn Shieldon into a similar mana as the ones we covered before, a sturdy stealth rocker. Shieldon at least has a surprisingly colorful move pool. Check this out, Volt Beam coverage, Edgequake, and Fire Blast. This gives the potential for many super effective hits, which turn those lacking attacking stats into serviceable damage. It didn't gain access to the amazing body press like its evolved form, which could have been huge this generation, as it could see a bit more usage paired with Terra Fighting and Iron Defense. But as it is, Shieldon, like its evolution, serve as big disappointments. The last Pokemon with high defenses to cover is Shelder. It sits a little lower than Shieldon at base 100, but is a far better Pokemon competitively. That defense stat paired with the great water typing can allow Shelder to take a lot of physical hits. It has a decent 65 base attack and underwhelming stats otherwise. Initially, a lot of the tools that make Shelder great didn't exist. It really is a grower, not a shower. In Generation 5, Shelder received two massive buffs that skyrocketed its usefulness. The first big one is access to Shell Smash, possibly the best setup move in the game. And the second was the buff to Icicle Spear, going from 10 base power to 25 base power per hit. This obviously pairs well with its skill link ability, allowing Shelder to nab great damage combined with Rock Blast. Little Cup damage works weird, so it makes more sense for Shelder to not run a stab attack in some generations, opting for Substitute or Ice Shard as the last attack. As a Generation 9, Shelder is a top tier Little Cup Pokemon. Its physical bulk, paired with Eviolite, can allow it to set up a Shell Smash and sweep weakened teams. It doubles its speed stat, outspeeding all non-Scar Pokemon in the tier, and its great coverage is hard to wall. Shelder is definitely the top out of the high defense Pokemon we've covered here. Finally, we get to our last stat in Special Attack. There are some really strong mons here. We're gonna start with Ghastly, a Gen 1 glass cannon sporting an awesome 100 base special attack. With the great defensive traits of a Ghost Poison type with Levitate, Ghastly finds itself some solid switch-in opportunities with 3 immunities and is unaffected by Toxic. Sporting a solid 80 base speed, Ghastly can get off pretty strong Shadow Balls and Sludge Bombs. It can use Will-O-Wisp to cripple physical mons and potentially live an attack with its abysmal bulk. Substitute is often seen on predicted switches, and you have other great tools like Trick and Destiny Bond to disrupt opposing mons with choice items or take down a slower problem Pokemon. Ghastly has overall been a menace and strong pick over the generations, being able to hold its own in lower tiers than earlier generations, as 100 special attack and even 80 speed was solid back then. Another early gen Pokemon with min-max stats is Abra. Abra has been a staple in Little Cup for such a long time. It sports an even stronger 105 base special attack and a faster base 90 speed. While it doesn't have the same defensive utility Ghastly has, it does sport the great ability Magic Guard. This lets Abra avoid indirect damage like Weather, Leech Seed, status damage, and a big one, Life Orb. Life Orb is a preferred item on Abra to give it a solid power boost while not locking it into one move. Focus Sash, on the other hand, is another popular item on Abra. It will stay intact to give Abra a guaranteed survival of 1 hit from full HP. This means it can come in on hazards and revenge kill a mod. With its great speed stat, it will outspeed most non-Scarf Pokemon and be able to pop them with 2 hits if necessary. Psychic Stab is solid, hitting many common fighting and poison types in the tier hard, and also is just a good strong neutral hit. Dark types usually pestered Abra as it relied on Shadow Ball and Hidden Power fighting for coverage, but as of Generation 6 and the introduction of Fairy types, Abra can now pack Dazzling Gleam as coverage against dark types that stifle its stab attacks. This makes the move Substitute exceptionally good, as you can scout for a switch and use the appropriate move after. Funnily enough, Abra actually makes use of its terrible base 20 attack stat too in generations after Hidden Power's removal. Using the powerful Focus Punch, predicting a switch, or behind a sub to hit would-be counter Pawniard, or even Fire Punch to do some great damage to Pharaoh Seed. Abra can usually afford these move slots too, as Psychic is what it will want to spam most of the time besides when these counters come in. Abra isn't the only Psychic type Little Cup mon with such an outrageously high special attack stat, and also the Magic Guard ability. Also sporting 105 in the stat is Solosis. Solosis is like Abra, but if you took its great speed stat and applied early gen paralysis mechanics to it. This makes Solosis a lot less immediately threatening, but it does at least give it a niche on the rare Little Cup Trick Room team. It also gains a bit more bulk and a useful secondary ability option in Regenerator. Outside of Trick Room, Solosis isn't the best Pokemon to use and is pretty easy to take advantage of, as pretty much everything can outspeed it and bypass its mediocre bulk. The last special attacking behemoth may be the best. Here we have Glimmet, the pre-evolution of Glimmora. At 105 base special attack, Glimmet is one of the top 5 most used Little Cup Pokemon in its debut generation. Currently around 42% usage, Glimmet's main calling is bringing hazards to Little Cup. Hazards aren't as common as chip damage isn't as coveted as getting strong attacks off, but with the ability Toxic Debris, Glimmet can lay toxic spikes from just getting hit by physical moves. This passive trait makes it worthwhile as Focus Sashes and Sturdy strategies can be foiled. It can use its other move slots to take advantage of its monstrous special attack with strong stab attacks and Sludge Bomb and Power Gem. It rounds out its main coverage with a surprising move in Mud Shot. Since it doesn't get Earth Power until it evolves, it opts to run its best ground type option to take care of steel and ground types that wall its other stabs, along with hitting mons like Hisuian Growlithe and opposing Glimmet for big damage. Its guaranteed speed drop is also nice, as Glimmet isn't slow by any means, but it can gain some crucial outspeeds this way. It has plenty of other great traits that make it a top tier Pokemon and usable in the NFE tier as well, but its ability to threaten big damage with its high special attack is definitely a huge reason for its success. So those are the unevolved Pokemon who have crazy base stats. This to me shows that high stats don't always make for a good Pokemon, be it in Little Cup or higher tiers. Sure, they usually help, but competitively, there are a lot of other factors besides base stats that go into making a Pokemon viable or not. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check this one out next, and join the Bud Zone Discord for monthly tournaments and to be part of a community of Pokemon enjoyers. Take it easy, buds, and I'll catch you soon.